Who could have thought that Slime's friend would one day be hosting prestigious invitational tournaments for Super Smash Bros. Melee? From humble beginnings as a YouTuber making rage compilations of Ice Climbers haters to his incredible success as a streamer, Ludwig's impact is felt not just in the Smash community, but on the internet as a whole. And even though his streaming efforts have allowed him to break sub records, host game shows, and even croon it all smooth like on a Christmas album, Ludwig has continued to show love to the Melee community through organizing online tournaments, paying for the travel of various players, and even sponsoring Zain at Genesis 7, where the now famous Red Marth would shock everyone by taking home first place at the beloved Super Major, all while wearing Mogul Moves merch. This brings us to his most ambitious Melee undertaking to date, the Ludwig Invitational. The tournament will be a pseudo-invitational that has a limited open bracket last chance qualifier, where 8 players will be floated into the Swiss pool setup for the final bracket. For us viewers, this means we will be treated to some of the best Melee the world has to offer as early as 2 p.m. Pacific time on day 1, Friday, October 22nd. The Ludwig Invitational will stream on YouTube with a main and quad side stream, so it seems we will not miss a beat as we go through the hard-fought last chance qualifier matches into the day 2 Swiss matches, all leading to the final top 16 bracket on Sunday, where all players who survive the Swiss round will start in winners. In short, the format promises a ton of hype matches, so make sure you don't miss a single one. And with all that said, who will make it to day 3 and win what is shaping up to be the Super Invitational of the year? Let's get into the last chance qualifier participants. The last chance qualifier bracket alone looks like a major with the amount of top talent in attendance. Players ranked as high as 15th in the world must fight their way to day 2 if they want to have their travel reimbursed as they fly into Las Vegas this weekend. If you're starting to grow weary of watching Foxes and Falcos, you're in luck because plenty of Puffs and Peaches alike are looking to grab one of the top 8 spots in the last chance qualifier bracket. While we'll be touching on the international players later on, these meta-defying participants will be showcasing their various playstyles. CPU0 and Snowy are 2 Puffs resting just under the radar of most top players, with Snowy being placed at the 100th spot on the MPGR back in 2019 and CPU0 terrorizing online events and managing a 13th place finish at Wave Dash, beating out the likes of Santiago and Ringler. Either of these beasts of the back air could make a few upsets against their fellow rising stars, especially anyone who is ill-prepared to fight Jigglypuff. However, CPU0 and Snowy are only the beginning of the perilous Puffs. Dawson will also be in attendance, and if you haven't been too mesmerized by Multi-Shines, you've probably been at least somewhat following his rise for some time. Dawson has stacked up East Coast wins left and right, be it Bones, J-Flex, or B-Bats, as well as high major placements like his 25th at Genesis, 33rd at Pound, 33rd at Shine, and just recently a 49th place finish at Big House. Though Dawson is still waiting for that huge breakout performance, he should absolutely be feared in this bracket. Not to be outdone by a lowly Pokemon, the Peaches are also coming out in full force to hopefully join Lod in the round of Swiss pools, and this pack of princesses ain't fresh off the turnip truck either. They're here to blend up dreams and their devastating down smashes like they've been doing all year long. Heading up the royal line is Wally, the Peach who brought Zain to his knees during his breakout run at SmashCon. After him comes Kalamazoo, the California veteran, who disappeared after his 7th place finish at Genesis where he took down the likes of Null, SFAT, and Kadoran, only to re-emerge 175 days later to place 49th at the Big House. Finally, there's Polish, the fan-favorite Peach who floated out of quarantines to take sets off of Cody and HBox at their breakout Smash World Tour East Coast qualifier. This year, Polish has had varied results, perhaps due to some experimentation with Fox on the side, but just like the other Peaches who will be present, Polish has the ability to seemingly make any upset at any time, and that's precisely what makes this group of players so dangerous. Sure, these Peaches may not consistently make top 8s, but with Wally's win on Zain and Polish's wins on HBox and iBDW, I wouldn't blame anyone for thinking any or even all of these Peaches have what it takes to qualify into Saturday. A longtime Icy staple, Lunar Dusk, and the man behind a myriad of Summit campaigns, Dark Gen X, will represent Nana and Popo this weekend in hopes of continuing the rage compilations from which Ludwig began. While Dark Gen X goes Fox in certain matchups and has not seen as much success as the other Icies, he's still a dark horse who competes at Tri-State events, which boasts some of the highest talent in the world. If anything is going to forge a tough Icies player, that'll do the trick, so don't write off a Dark Gen X dream run so soon. Lunar, on the other hand, has had quite the year, with continued eyebrow-raising wins over the likes of Mateo, Mott Money, Squid, Dreffin, KJH, Chem, and Magi. For a lot of spectators, the conversation around Icies will unfortunately always revolve around wobbling being banned, but perhaps Lunar Dusk will finally divert our attention towards something new. A hype Icies run on the level of Wobbles, or Chudat, or Nintendude before him, that sees him not only qualify for Saturday, but also take some names on Sunday and remind top players why this character should be feared. Unlike the turnip-tossing, hammer-swinging characters mentioned above, these players prefer the finer things in life. A cozy cape, some knee-high boots, a golden tiara, and a sword that's sharpest at its tip. I won't tell you to say hello to these Marth players, but instead, given their talent and deadly knack for making upsets, perhaps another suggestion is more appropriate. Bow. For Crike and Logan, this tournament will be a chance to affirm their place in a tier above the East Coast Marths. Meds and Rishi, on the other hand, will be fighting for their long-standing legacy as veterans, as this will be Rishi's second major since lockdown, with his other being SmashCon where he placed 7th. Rishi reminded all of us that his skills have remained just as sharp as ever, as he tore through Spacey after Spacey, beating Mott Money, Vu, Magi, Zuppy, and the aforementioned Marth Crike before falling to Axe in top 8. Meds has put on quite the year as well, finding 2nd place at Smash Factor 9, beating out Chango, Chape, Lucky, S2J, Eddie Mexico, and resetting the bracket against Wizzy, only for him to find top 8 again just a week later at Wave Dash, beating Franz and Bobby Big Balls for 7th. With Kadoran and Zain posturing Prince-like in the Swiss round already, all 4 of these Marths will have their work carved out for them. But luckily, carving is the name of the game when it comes to the Prince of Altea. 2022 is a weird year. I mean, we have a Luigi and a Dr. Mario making a case to be ranked in the top 50 with Eddie Mexico and Franz, both trouncing top players to the dismay of 20XX believers. We also have 3 Pikachus in attendance at Summit this year, with Axe and Ralph finding the votes to compete and Swift attending as VIP. Here at the Ludwig Invitational, Eddie, Franz, and Ralph will all be looking to join Axe and Amsa as the mid-tier oddities that we continue to cheer for against all odds. The bird is the goddamn word, am I right? No? Maybe? Well, it seems to be so, as the number of Falcos in competition for top 50 only grows with each passing ranking. Be it the real things run at Big House, Magi's, Ginger's, and Bobby's peaks, or Mang0 pulling out the bird in critical matches, it seems like the LCQ will only further the fairy tale that is a Cinderella Falco run. Or, I guess there's always a chance that this group of glass cannons will shatter before ever getting off a good shot. Whatever happens, Chicago competitor Ober and California Dark Horse Mega Xmas will be battling alongside Bobby Big Balls and Albert to grab some spots in the Swiss pools. Mega Xmas and Ober have a huge mountain to climb if they want to overtake the other pair of Texas natives. Albert is the former 37th best player in the world who has finally risen from his slumber, as this is his first major aside from Smash Camp that he's competed in since Mainstage 2021. Of course, we have to mention Bobby, the Twitch clip king, who seems to be growing more and more consistent at each off-stream tournament he attends. We all know these Falcos have what it takes at the highest levels of the game, but can they survive a bracket full of Marths and Peaches and Puffs, oh my, to join Ginger, Magi, and Fiction on Saturday? Despite being a ninja, Sheik is more visible than ever. Sheiks from every region continue to stun onlookers as the year goes on, and with Jmook being a mainstay in 2022 top 8s, we've seen more high-level Sheik play in the last 6 months than we have been graced with in a long, long time. Here for LCQ, we have the return of the ever-energetic fan-favorite Shroomed, and while some spectators might expect him to be overwhelmed by all the new school talent, this guy has been playing since the days of PC Chris and Silent Spectre. So, if he eats an apple in the morning, well, the sky is truly the limit for Dewan Energy McDaniel. In addition, we'll also have Face Roll and Free Palestine, who have both had solid showings all year. Face Roll found placements in top 48, with 33rd at Big House and 17th at Function 2, with Free Palestine right there with him, as reflected by his 33rd and 25th place finishes at the Big House and Riptide respectively. Meeting up with Spark, Crudo, and Jmook in the bracket will be a challenge for any needle-throwing ninja, but if 2022 has shown us anything, it's that change is in the air, and Sheik is on the rise. I don't need to tell you this bracket will have no shortage of foxes, but just in case you were worried there would be a lack of naring into the corner at this event, worry not. The Ludwig Invitational has a den's worth of wave shiners, so we'll get to watch some rising stars and a familiar face who I think many people will be happy to see once again. Alex19 isn't so great? Are you kidding me? Before you write him off, don't forget that Alex came up with the likes of Mang0 and Lucky, a shoes record setting in favor of rule breaking, and while he may not have placed as highly as the other foxes in bracket this year, you never know what will happen when you put a Norwalk fox into a tournament set. Alex19 can pull out the magic at any time, and despite a rocky return to competitive play earlier this year, we will be cheering him on as he competes this weekend. Null, Curve, and Azel, on the other hand, seem to be in that tier just below the top foxes as they struggle to find top 8s and mostly amass placings in the 9th to 33rd range. All of these foxes have what it takes to make big upsets, and we've seen all of them just inches away from closing out tournament-defining sets. But they're going to need to keep it together when everything is on the line if they hope to survive in this highly competitive bracket. Everyone here is practiced against Fox, so these players, and Alex19 as well, definitely have targets on their backs. Then there's the pair of rising stars in SFOP and Zamu. Jmook continues his grasp over the Midwest with high placings at every Midwestern regional you can think of, and despite a lackluster 33rd place finish at the Big House, he found 13th at Riptide, 5th at the Function 2, and 17th at Genesis 8. SFOP continues to be the hidden boss of the South as he racks up high placements at every online event he enters, and at his sole major this year, Lost Tech City, he went on an incredible run, tearing through Franz, Mech, Kadoran, and SFAT for 5th at his first LAN major since Mainstage 2021. Lastly, recent Summit qualifier Swedish Spacey Slayer Canadian Hero Sunsei is in appearance once again to drive out the doubters after his more than impressive run at Big House, which saw him beat both Pipsqueak and Leffen, as well as S2J for an incredible yet somehow inevitable 5th place. If you've been keeping up with Melee for the last couple of years, you know that Sunsei has what it takes to compete with the very best players in the world. But the question he's facing now at the Ludwig Invitational is simple. Can he do it again? In an almost ironic sense, the 4 Falcons duking it out in the trenches are so different from one another, it's almost laughable. Gatsu, the 20GX specialist, whose incredible movement is a feat in and of itself, Soof, the California staple, who recently made the switch to box, Mech, the grinder, who continues to win over the hearts and minds of the Melee Nation with his bright spirit and endless push-ups, and finally, Salt, the Traveler, whose Stone Cold Falcon rivals none in notability in terms of option selection and creativity. Soof and Gatsu have been a little more low-key this year, as Soof's switch to box has come with some rocky roads, as reflected in his 65th place finish at Wave Dash, after a relatively respectable 33rd place finish at Genesis 8. Gatsu had only competed at weeklies leading up to Big House, where he stunned onlookers with the 17th place finish, beating the likes of Salt, Ginger, and Duck to the dismay of every Michigan onlooker. Mech and Salt have had a similar rise to prominence, as they have both placed highly at stacked regionals. Salt finished second at We Need Some Space 3, Sunshine, and 4M, and Mech finished second at his impressive Low Tide City run and Tipped Off Reunion. At majors since their summit performances, Mech is just behind Salt, as he has yet to find a top 8, finishing 9th at Shine and 13th at Lost Tech City, whereas Salt finished 7th at the same tournament. No matter how these Falcons end up placing, make it a point to watch as many of their sets as possible, because I have a feeling we're going to see some absolutely wild gameplay. Look, you might have noticed that there's a group of players yet to be mentioned, and for that, we apologize. However, it's finally time to talk about the international talent coming in for this tournament, and while they may be some of the more untested players at this event, they should in no way be written off. From Oceania, we have the Marth main Spud, who was once called the second best Marth in the world alongside PewPewU, being ranked as high as 33rd in the summer of 2019. His return to competitive play has been uneven but not unimpressive, placing 33rd at Big House, losing to SFAT and Toussaint, and bouncing back with a 9th place finish at the offseason, beating Wevens and Nunn. Spud is coming into this tournament with years of experience and a new outlook on the game, so this could be the perfect time for him to put up an incredible performance, shocking American players and reminding them just how good he really is. The other Oceanic player is the current top rank in Australia, coming off a broken arm injury that jeopardized his chances of being able to compete at all. But Joshman is here against all odds, and while he may not be up to form, anyone who doubts this man need only look at his Gommel run, where he showed prowess in the Ditto by defeating iBDW and shocked everyone with his upset over Amsa. Joshman is not just some Australian novelty. He has proven himself to be a real threat in any bracket with an alarmingly quick rate of improvement. Europe will be showing out as well, with 2 Floaties and a Falco to represent 3 different countries. First off, we have the Finnish Puff fanatic Solo Battle, who Pipsqueak stated could have the most unexpected run given the right bracket. Being one of, if not the most notable top Puff players in Europe, Solo Battle has crafted himself quite the unorthodox playstyle with a slew of creative rest setups. If anyone is unprepared or unpracticed against Jigglypuff, Solo Battle is going to take that as far as he can, leaving players in disbelief as they get blasted off the stage in the most obscure micro-interactions. Triss' return to competitive play saw him take a set off of Leffen just this past weekend in his run to 3rd at DreamHack Rotterdam. And while he played Falco at FET, he seems to be right back on top with his more serious return to Peach. Known at one point to be the second best turnip tosser of all time behind only Armada, anyone sleeping on this Peach will have their qualification chances scrambled and spit out as they get pulled into a disorienting down smash. If Triff is in top form, you may as well consider there being only 7 qualification spots left. Finally, we have UK number 2 and top Europe Falco Frenzy. Despite a relatively low 9th place finish at FET 2, Frenzy bounced right back at DreamHack Rotterdam, placing 4th and losing 2 Game 5s against Leffen and Professor Pro. During his stay in the US earlier in the year, he placed a respectable 9th at Summit 13, then had back-to-back top 24 showings at Double Down and Gommel, placing 17th and 13th respectively. While back home, he maintained his number 2 spot against the uprising of top English talent. How he will fare against this incredibly competitive pool of US talent remains to be seen. Anyone watching Frenzy's play can see how close he really is to becoming a consistent top-level threat, but with his glass cannon character and a bracket of heavy hitters, he'll need to be at the top of his game to make it into Saturday. This is it for the last chance qualifier portion of the event. Who do you think will be making it to day 2? Leave your comments below and outline your dream bracket runs for all of your favorite players. Now, let's get into the top 24 invited players of the Ludwig Smash Invitational. We have 7 major winners in attendance, multiple super regional champions, and top 8 staples. Be it California or Tri-State, Canada or Sweden, the Ludwig Invitational has gathered the best of the best when it comes to everyone's favorite space animal. For Lucky and SFAT, these 2 old dogs have continued to keep up with the new blood of Melee, but this tournament is definitely their biggest challenge yet, and simply keeping up won't cut it. SFAT, of course, has been a staple in the top 25 every year since the SSBM Top 100. And who else but Lucky to sit right beside him, being ranked in the top 35 for just as long. Over the past few events, these 2 have almost mirrored in placements, where SFAT placed 9th at Battle of BC, Lucky placed 13th. They tied at Double Down, and SFAT managed to break through top 8 at Wave Dash by placing 5th. Meanwhile, Lucky placed the exact same the week before at Smash Factor 9, and again at Shine. However, it seems SFAT is gaining the edge, as Lucky placed 25th at Big House and SFAT managed to place 13th. In such a stacked tournament, Lucky and SFAT need to show that they're capable of more than living up to their storied legacies. They need to make that big upset that no one is expecting. For Aklo, this will be another test for the Tri-State Fox, as he placed a respectable 17th at the Big House after not attending a major since the Function 2. While he has managed to continue his dominance over the New York Weekly Nightclub, it remains to be seen if his number 18 debut on the top 50 will hold to be true as the back half of the year plays out. Also, with Aklo's 7th place at Pound earlier this year, there's a sense that we've only just begun to see his full potential. He's in a pool with Zain, Mang0 and hBox. Could we see yet another surprising upset? Finally, for the European Top Box Fox, Pipsqueak is on his 2nd journey to the US. After a rocky start where his Falcon lost to Marth player Dark Hero at Lost Tech City, the return tour has been otherwise fruitful for Pip, taking a win over Grab and beating both None and The Real Thing for 9th place at the Big House. Pipsqueak's Fox, we can assume, will be in top form, but the real question is his Captain Falcon, which he's using for the Marth matchup. If his dual maining plan works out, we could see Pipsqueak truly change the shape of this entire tournament, as he's in the same Swiss pool as both Kadoran and Zain. 3 little birds sat on my window and they told me they'll be fighting for the right to participate on Sunday, and it seems at a first glance that one has a greater chance than the other 2. Ginger and Magi have both struggled with consistency issues this year. Ginger picked up an incredible win at the Function 2 and Minnesota Monthly 8, with top 12 finishes at Genesis, SmashCon, and Riptide, but his lower performances at Gommel and Shine make him a little tricky to bet on. Magi is in a similar spot, with her lowlights being a 49th place finish at the Big House, 33rd at SmashCon, and 33rd at Genesis. Her highlights are a 2nd place finish at CEO, where she managed to take a set off of Plup, as well as her wins on Axe, which helped her snag a 7th place finish at Riptide. Pit Magi against any Fox or Falcon in the world, and I don't think anyone would be surprised to see her give him the absolute corporation. But pit Magi against a Floaty, and things start to get a little dicey. Her Swiss pool has a mix of Foxes, Sheiks, and Ices, a Wizrobe, and an Amsa, so there's some scary matchups in there, but some comfort ones as well. If Magi can stay strong in her fast faller matchups and shake out an extra win or 2, we may be able to see her go on a deep run. Then there's the Falco who's as consistent as the number of lasers he shoots, Fiction. After missing a top 8 at Genesis at the start of the year, Fiction has yet to miss one since, all while maintaining a stranglehold on SoCal as he racks up weekly wins at Lawless Melee and Melee at Verdugo. His number 12 spot in the top 50 is very fitting, as he continues to rack up wins on anyone outside the top 10, while his only wins against the players ranked above him come early in the year at Pound, where he took sets off rank 11 Mang0 and rank 9 None. A top 8 finish at this tournament, however, would be an absolute statement from the boxing bird, but it's not an impossible scenario to envision. For as long as we've seen the competitive Melee scene grow, there has been an ongoing continuum of Captain Falcons. We've seen many legends come and go, adding their flair to the explosive character, going on legendary tournament runs, and adding to an almost mystical sense around the fan-favorite fighter. Nowadays, top-level Falcon gameplay is personified most strongly through 3 players. Wizrobe, with his tech-chasing prowess and airtight punish game, None, the fiery freestyle who moves like liquid light, and S2J, the SoCal staple with solid fundamentals and an ability to erase stocks at a moment's notice unlike anyone else in the game. This weekend, we are treated to seeing all 3 in attendance, fighting for the spot of top Falcon once again. Wizrobe's return to competitive play has been somewhat of a bumpy road, as he's lost to Meds, Amsa twice, Hungrybox, and traded sets with Axe, while still picking up wins on Eddie Mexico, BBB, and Salt. Wizzy's in a weird place coming into the weekend, and we have yet to see the true scope of his skill this year. He seems capable of giving the top 10 a run for their money, but a period of inactivity can be as tricky as ever to come back from in this current era of Melee, where every player seems to be constantly pushing themselves to their limits. No matter what happens to Wizzy this weekend, we can be sure he will continue to exist as a human further into infinity. For the other two Falcons, it seems that when one falls in terms of consistency, the other picks up the slack, as none started off the year hot, placing 4th at Genesis and 9th at Pound before managing 7th place finishes at Summit and Gommel. For his efforts, None was awarded the 9th spot on the Summer MPGR, only to shortly after fall to Leffen and Zain at SmashCon for 25th place, then Axe and Pipsqueak for 17th at the Big House. S2J almost had the reverse in results, as his year started with a 25th place at Genesis and a 9th at Battle of BC and Gommel, before stomping his way over Hungrybox to a 5th place at Double Down. And while his hiccups at Smash Factor 9 and Wave Dash seemed out of character, he reminded everyone who he was at Riptide by defeating Zain and Ginger for 4th, only to place 9th once again at the Big House, falling to Jmook and Sunsei. Both of these Falcons have shown in this year that they should not be counted out at the very top level of the game, but there will be more than a few deadly Sheiks and Marths in their path, which isn't even to mention Mang0's domination on the matchup. As always, it'll be a tough bracket for any Falcon, but hasn't that always been the case? The following players have pushed their respective characters to the pinnacle of play, despite not necessarily picking a character who sits at the top of the top tiers. Be it the two Sheiks not named Jmook, the mid-tiers who have risen to prominence in a time where Foxes and Marths continue to rack up tournament wins, or a Doctor's return to competition. All of these players have shown that they can face off against the very best Melee has to offer. Spark and Crudo may be lurking in the shadows of the Sheik Gods Plup and Jmook, but with no Plup at the event, the way forward is clear for either of these Sheiks to pick up the slack in his absence. Crudo's front half of the year was as expected for the top 20 player, as he placed 13th at Genesis, 5th at the Function 2, and 9th at CEO. Crudo then had arguably the best run of the year, where he placed 5th at SmashCon, but unfortunately he followed that up with weak showings at Shine and the Big House, for 25th and 33rd respectively. While Crudo fell easily to Zain in their SmashCon set, don't forget that he did take a set off of Cody at the Function, so it's not out of the question for Crudo to make some big upsets this weekend. Spark's sporadic attendance has allowed him to pop up every now and again, always flirting with obscurity, only to show up and dominate the field. After his 17th place finish at Genesis, he managed to win Emerald City 10 over Joshman and Fat Goku, only to appear 2 months later in Europe at FET 2, placing a respectable 5th before exiting early at 13th at Wave Dash, SmashCon, and Shine. While he might struggle against some Falcos, as shown in his 0-3 set count against Ginger this year and a loss to Fiction at the Big House, given the right bracket, he could be standing right next to Jmook come Sunday. For Spark, it seems to be a matter of making his peaks become the norm. Slug continues to be the chagrin of any Ices hater, as he manages to upset top player after top player with a character who many thought would never find consistent top wins ever again. Starting off the year with an incredible losers run to 9th at Genesis as well as 3rd at the Function 2, we were shown early on what Ices could do in a post-wobbling era. However, the beginning of the competitive year was only a sign of things to come, as at Double Down, Slug achieved one of the most unthinkable upsets in the modern Melee era, trouncing over Zain in his path to 4th place. Since then, we've seen him continue to shore up wins over the field during his 13th and 17th place runs at Shine in the Big House, where he's beaten Rising Stars Null and Ralph, as well as established threats in Calvar and Aklo. There was a time when an Ices player in top 8 at a major was considered common. With a solid performance at the Ludwig Invitational, perhaps Slug will welcome a resurgence for his character, a return to the top of the mountain. Lod's priorities may have shifted as he continues on with his residency, but he has not lost his touch in the slightest, having only missed one top 8 this year. The Doctoral Stitchmaster has dominated the field of players throughout all of 2022, negating every possible John that has ever existed in the process. I mean, what can you really say next time you go 0-2 at your local? That you should have slept more? That someone was yelling in your ear? This dude is a doctor, and he's making it to top 8s at majors. Anyway, starting off the year strong by beating out Axe, Aura, and Slug for 7th at Genesis, Lod then followed that up with a back-to-back top 5 showing at Pound and Summit, where he defeated Swift, Mang0, Polish, Aklo, Kadoran, None, Leffen, Zain, and Kadoran again. And yeah, you heard that list correctly. After defeating the best player in the world, Lod decided to peace out until SmashCon, where he placed a year-high 3rd, beating Crike and Crudo before falling to Hungrybox and Mang0. At Riptide, he finally missed a top 8, losing to Plup and Axe, but picking up wins on Eggy and J-Flex. This is his one underperformance of the year, and it's hardly even that. Losing to Plup and Axe is nothing to kick yourself over, and for Lod, the big question this weekend is simply, how in practice is he? Because if Lod is at the top of his game, then there isn't a single player in this entire bracket who shouldn't be afraid to cross this Peach's path. Khadoran's place as both the second best Marth in the world and SoCal's #1 remains uncontested, as he's found top 8 5 times this year and has a wide array of wins at SoCal weeklies. But as of late, the FlyQuest competitor has had a slight downswing at majors, missing top 8 back-to-back at the Big House and Lost Tech City. While his Big House run did see him slice through fast fallers Bobby Big Balls, Ginger, and Gatsu, this was more or less to be expected from the top 10 player. He has yet to crack into that tip-top tier of players, though he has picked up wins on Cody, Mang0 and Hungrybox throughout the course of the year. Will the Ludwig Invitational be his time to take sets over the likes of Jmook, Zain, Amsa, or Leffen? Or will he continue his place as a gatekeeper of the top 10? Alright, now let's get a little serious. Strap in, because we have a bone to pick. In 2010, a Pikachu player named Axe placed 5th at Apex just outside of the gods Hungrybox, Armada, Mewtwo King, and Dr. PP. He'd follow this up with a 4th place finish at Pound 5 the next year, outplacing M2K. A few years later came EVO 2014, where he would establish himself as one of the most recognized players in the scene with a mind-boggling 4-stock against Silent Wolf. Fast forward to 2019, and Axe is a well-established name. That year alone, within the first 5 months, he placed second to 2 different gods at Genesis 6 and Gommel 2019, and he won a smaller major in Battle of BC over Zain, S2J, Hax, and Shroomed. Going into Summit 8, the narrative was that the Pikachu could not win a major if his longtime rivals were in attendance. But come Sunday, after beating Moki, S2J, Zain, Mang0, Leffen, and Wizrobe twice, Axe found himself holding the trophy against all odds. But we all know that. Fast forward to today, and Axe has found his footing once again, despite a period of underperformance. We only say this because the narrative continues to be pushed that Axe has lost his touch, and to that I say, open your web browser, type in reddit.com/r/smashbros, because that's where you belong, and you shall return from whence you came. Look, it's true that Axe had a rough start this year, but it didn't take long for him to come out of the tailspike end of the summer of Smash with 3 top 8 finishes, placing 5th at SmashCon, 4th at Shine, and 7th at Riptide. Now his 2 top 16 finishes recently may look bad, but only losing to Magi, Moki, Wizzy, and Mang0 for 9th and 13th placements is a resume that plenty of players would kill for. Not to mention his wins on Zuppy, Lucky, S2J, Slug, Lod, and Jmook. So, if you question why Axe is the 8th seed at this tournament, go back to the aforementioned run at Summit, or his various 4-stock clips, or his entire career, and then come back complaining. And to Axe, good luck. Come Sunday, we will be cheering you on to see you stand next to Amsa as the mid-tier heroes who could win a major. For the following players, it seems we have reached the peak of what it means to be a Melee competitor. Europe, SoCal, Tri-State, Canada, and Japan are all represented among the top echelon of Melee's greatest. We all know, love, or hate them. We all know any of them could take home first place. These are your top seeds, and you can expect them to make it to the final bracket on day 3, barring what would be legendary upsets. Leffen is quite possibly the biggest question mark at this tournament, as his return to Smash after a stint where his sole focus was Guilty Gear left the Swede looking a little rusty at the Big House, reflected by his pair of Canadian losses to Moki and Sunsei. But Wumble Williams stepped on the gas just a week later, placing 1st at European Tournament DreamHack Rotterdam and tearing through losers after falling early to Triff, not only then beating Triff in the run back, but winning the whole tournament over Kinzo, Frenzy, and Professor Pro. A far cry from his earlier performances this year, which saw him win Battle of BC and take wins over Polish, Axe, Khadoran, Hungrybox, Amsa, and Zain, but still a return to form nonetheless. We could see a similar situation to his Gommel runs earlier in his career, where he managed to prove all the doubters wrong and defeat the world's greatest with ease. Jmook as a 6th seed might seem a bit odd, but that is just a testament to how stacked this field of talent is in 2022. His well-documented rise in dominance may still seem surreal to us viewers, but his continued top 8 finishes only prove himself further. His lowest placement came at the Big House earlier this month, where he exited at 7th, falling to Zain and Cody. However, he bounced right back with his 5th second-place finish of the year at the off-season, falling to Amsa. While his once even or winning head-to-heads with the majority of the top 8 may be weaning, as he only has winning head-to-heads against Axe, Mang0, and Leffen, his 1-7 set count with Hungrybox, 1-2 count with Cody, and 1-3 count with Amsa may see him slowly dwindling from the one stranglehold he had on his fellow competitors. But his continued back and forths with Zain live up to the hype every time and show that he can go toe-to-toe with one of the most deadly players in any bracket. So will this finally be the tournament where he takes first place, or will he continue being the second place king and fall just short yet again? One Hungrybox Debbie Edma is one of the few players in attendance that has yet to miss a top 8 on the year so far, and he also has managed to win 3 majors. His bumpy past few tournaments, if you can even call them that, note his struggles against Plup, Mang0, Cody, and Amsa, as his 5th place at Big House, 3rd place at Lost Tech, 3rd place at Shine, and 2nd place at SmashCon showed that there are some cracks in the armor. Nonetheless, he did manage to find a win at Riptide over Jmook and Plup. While he only has a dominant head-to-head against Jmook, being up 7-1, the majority of his other head-to-heads are contentious, as he is 1-4 with Zain, 1-3 with Cody, 2-1 with Amsa, and 4-3 with Mang0, meaning the only player he has yet to take a set off this year is Leffen. Will we become compliant to our Puff God, or will he find himself faltering to one of the other newfound major winners? Okay, 6 months ago, to have Zain as a 4th seed seemed completely out of the question, as he was commanding the landscape of Melee and his incredible showings throughout the Slippy era. Alongside 3 major wins, including a super major win at Genesis, 5th place has been his lowest placement. Zain also has winning head-to-heads against 3 of the top 7 in attendance and an 11-0 set count against the back half of the top 50. His only 3 losses against the top 11 to 25 players show what it means to be rank 1. Coming off a pair of losses to possibly his biggest rivals Cody and Mang0 at the Big House, the Marth will be hungry for revenge, and winning this invitational will be the perfect way to cement himself as the #1 player of the year. As documented with his continued back and forths with Jmook, we've seen his ability to both get reverse 3-0'd and reverse 3-0 any top player. And though Mang0 took their most recent set, let's not forget that just months ago, Zain was making Mang0 look lighter than light work. While he might not be the #1 seed, his continued dominance over the field has shown why this swordsman continues to be in the conversation for #1 in the world. Oh, what it means to be a Melee player in 2022. We've seen the Cinderella stories, the upsets, the handoff hate, the fall and redemption of our greatest heroes. But let me tell you a different story. A story of endurance and the refusal to give up. Almost a decade ago, after placing 2nd at the Japanese equivalent of a major Battle Gateway, a Japanese Yoshi player traveled to America for the first time to compete in EVO 2013, where he placed 25th and managed to take a game off of the god Mewtwo King, a player he would go on to beat the next year at Kings of Cali 4. 2014 would be a good year for Amsa. He attended Apex and managed to place 9th, establishing himself as not just a one-off gimmick and participating in a multitude of exhibition matches where he would defeat the likes of Kage, Westballs, and SFAT. This would allude to his rise, as just a few years later in 2018, he would crack into top 8s at majors, placing 7th at Full Bloom 4 and Summit 6, and 5th at GOML 2018, SmashCon 2018, and Smash Summit 7. Amsa at this point was not just a top 64 threat, but a threat to the top 10, being ranked 9th in 2018. Amsa would more than justify his rank with continued solid placements, 4th at Genesis 6, 5th at Smash and Splash 5 and SmashCon 2019, and ending the year with number 7 by his name. One lockdown era later, and Amsa picked up right where he left off, as he won the SWT East Asia Finals and placed 5th at both the 2021 SWT Championships and Summit 12. Bringing us to 2022, Amsa started off the year electric. In his run to 5th at Genesis, where he beat the likes of Crudo, Ginger, and Kalamazoo, only falling to Nun and Zain. Following this, Amsa went on an incredible losers run at Pound after taking an early loss to Polish, tearing through Bobby Big Balls, Logan, iBDW, Fiction, Leffen, and Lod before finally losing out to Hungrybox in losers finals. A few weeks later at Canadian Major Battle of BC, he almost mirrored his run to Genesis, beating Swift, Moki, and then rising star Jmook, only losing out to top player stable Zain and Leffen. Despite an uncharacteristic 9th place finish at GOML, losing to the Foxes Moki and Joshman, Amsa bounced right back, obliterating everyone not named Cody at Double Down, including the Birds Magi and Fiction, and taking revenge over Zain. Trouncing over European talent at FET 2, he traveled back to the US after securing a Canadian working visa, placing 4th at Lost Tech City by barely falling to Plup in a Game 5 back-and-forth winner's set, then to Hungrybox in the losers bracket. Then came the back-to-back historic events for the Yoshi main. Going into the Big House 10 as the 8th seed, Amsa would have to overcome some longtime bracket demons and rivals in order to win. And he did just that. After taking expected wins over Crudo and Kadoran, he was left to face the Puff God himself, Hungrybox, where Amsa took it all the way to a timeout with a roaring crowd behind him. It seemed like the humble journeyman's chance was now, and we were treated to a winner's run over the Fox Sunsei and back-to-back victories over Mang0 to become not just the first Japanese player, but the first Yoshi main to win a super major since his first tournament, EVO 2013. Amsa then casually followed this up with another win a week later, taking the offseason over Wizzy and Jmook. So my question to you is this: are we being distracted by Cody, Zain, and Mang0? Is that not even where the conversation should be? Or are we actually just living in this Yoshi era, and is the Ludwig Invitational simply the next stop on Amsa's path to rank 1? After a slight seclusion from Smash due to some health issues, Cody came back in a big way with a 3rd place finish at the Big House, where he was double eliminated by Mang0. Despite this, and perhaps more importantly, Cody showed that he still had the Marth matchup on lock, taking a 3-1 set over Zain. Before Big House, Cody's resume seemed to be as polished as it could be, with solid showings at Genesis and Pound, one uncharacteristic performance at the Function 2, and first place finishes at Phantom, Double Down, and Summit 13. While being upset by Joshman at GOML, Cody still has an incredible list of wins this year, and one of the more solid arguments for best player in the world. So will Cody once again pull a rabbit out of a hat and cruise into Grand Finals this weekend, or will the long format of this tournament be difficult for his still ongoing recovery? Remember when I said what a year it's been? Well, one of the main driving forces of the Magic in Melee in 2022 is the redemption arc of Mang0. The only S+ player of 2021 had a difficult start to the year, where he failed to make top 8 at Genesis, Pound, and Summit. Around summertime, Mang0 started cleaning it up a bit, managing 5th place finishes at GOML and Phantom, but not being able to contest with the best of the best, losing to Cody in a nail-biter Game 5 and going down 0-3 in sets against Zain. All the while, it seemed Mang0 had a Hungrybox problem once again, with sets more reminiscent of hBox's dominant period circa 2018. Then, just after being ranked the number 11 player in the world and taking losses to Jmook and hBox at Wavedash, Mang0, seemingly out of nowhere, held the SmashCon trophy high, leaving every Redditor and subtweeter catching strays non-stop. Since then, despite mirroring his Wavedash performance at Shine, he won Lost Tech City in a semi-dominant fashion, 3-0ing Hungrybox and squeaking out 2 Game 5 wins over Plup. And then there was the Big House, where despite being the 7th seed, he went on a run that had all the highs and lows of a Mang0 classic. The kid barely clutched it out against Toussaint in a tense Game 5 set, defeated Axe 3-1 in another back-and-forth banger, and to the shock of everyone, but of no surprise to Mang0, he managed to triumph over Zain, finding a 7% 3-stock against the best Marth in the world. Oh, and all of this was before top 8, by the way. In top 8, he would double eliminate Cody with his Fox-slaying Falco before falling to Amsa in both Winners Finals and Grand Finals for a solid 2nd place. So, with Mang0 on his continued hot streak, there is indeed a world where if he wins this, we could see Mr. 11 sit upon the Melee throne once again. But what do you think? Will Mang0 usher in a new reign of dominance? Will Amsa complete his three-peat of victories? Will the Foxes fall to the back airs of Hungrybox, who recently claimed he's reached a new plateau in his gameplay? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to check out the tournament on YouTube this weekend. Special thanks to patrons Avishua Stein, Dorian, and Storm. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.